Hey gang, this is video two, and I wanted to put this one together because I think that if you have a little idea of what kind of play that you can do, maybe that would also help you kind of make up your mind if this is something for you. Also, when you come to our first session, which is called Session Zero, it it will give you a little bit of idea when I start talking about these things. You'll have some idea of what's going on. So, these are basically the classes that you can play. Basically, your job. Um, if I asked you, what did you want to be when you grew up in this particular world, these would be your choices. And so I wanted to start this by saying, some of these may be familiar to you if you've done role playing before. Some of them will be familiar, but we know them by other names. And some of these may be kind of wacky. So just be patient. Remember, this game is based off of your imagination, and so sky's the limit. So the first thing that you can play, one of the choices you have is a bard. Now we had bards in real life for as long as time has existed. Bards are the most charismatic, the most people in all the realms, right? Members of this class are masters at captivating and specialize in a variety of performance types, include singing and playing musical instruments, but they also are storytellers. They're comedians, and whether performing for an audience or speaking to an individual, bards really thrive on social interaction. So, members of this particular class, this profession, bond and train at schools, and they're called guilds. But a current of egoism also kind of runs heavy with a bard, and sometimes they're a little bit full of themselves. And so, while they may be the most likely to bring people together, Bard also has a temper and can sometimes do things to kind of break people apart. Well, if you choose Bard, you get to choose one or two different versions. You have a troubadour, so if you are like to sing, you can be a troubadour. And so the way your magic work will be through singing. So if you are if you are a vocalist or always wanted to be, and I didn't say you have to be a great vocalist, I said that's just what you're choosing. You could be a troubadour. Or if singing's not your cup of tea, you could be a wordsmith. Poetry or just inspiring words. This is another way to play the bard. So that's the bard, and so we'll go on. The druid. Druids are interesting. It's more than an occupation. Druids are actually kind of called. They have something within them that kind of pushes them to protect things like the wilderness. And while sometimes we underestimate the gentle nature of a druid, druids can cultivate their abilities and be quite a handful. They're very learned. They go to a lot of training, and some druids can even transform into some pretty powerful creatures. And as you play a druid, you will find out that wow, I can be a bear, or I can be this or that, and so that comes in handy, especially in a world like Amaroth, where things are kind of crazy and you never know what you're going to get. So if you are a druid and you want to kind of figure out, all right, here are the two things I can be. You could be a warden of the elements, which basically means that you embody elements of the wild, right? And so that's your strength. Or you could be a warden of renewal, which is more of a healer, and you'll use nature as a way to heal your party. Never underestimate the power of a healer in a group. When you play these adventures, there's always going to be cuts and bruises and boo-boos that kind of come along, and having a really powerful healer is a plus. All right, so then we move on to the Guardians. The title of Guardian is something that is given to people that have kind of shown that they really kind of know how to handle the sword. Speaking more to their moral compass, they have a unshakable fortitude, and that's why they fight. They just know that they are protectors. While many guardians kind of join groups like mercenaries or militias, um, they're most likely to follow those few people that they can really care for, and then they will protect them to their death. I mean, they're very loyal folks. Guardians are known for fighting with ferocity and even overcoming like odds that you would just shake your head at. And how defending their team is a big deal, and woe betide those who harm an ally of a guardian. So in a group setting, a guardian would protect the team. And so you can do that one of two ways. You can play stalwart, which is you can take a lot of damage. In other words, you are a tank. You can stand there and take a beating, and while everybody's running away, or you can be the distraction that your team needs so that you can defeat this series or this challenge. Or you can do where I usually sit is you can be vengeful. In other words, somebody does something to one of your friends or allies, and then you go all kind of crazy on them, and that's also what makes this particular class kind of good in a team setting. So that's the Guardian. The Ranger, and by the way, this is one of the Simian people, the half kind of monkey sort of looking folks. There's and we'll talk about this when we get into ancestry. There's big pluses to being able to have four limbs that can do remarkable things. But let's go into the class, which is Ranger. They're highly skilled hunters, and they are really good at martial stuff, but they're not really army type of guys. They're more they kind of hang out by themselves. They love the wilderness. They are very good at strategy and tactician. Super patient. Good at planning, good at tracking. Many rangers can track and fight alongside with an animal companion. So if as you grow your character, your animal companion will fight beside you. It's kind of cool. Later on in the ranks, you can have a tiger or you can have a bear. Always good to have an extra person, and this animal is a part of you. And so instead of the druid, which becomes the animal, the ranger just has an animal friend, which is kind of cool. So for those of you that have dogs or cats and likes to have pets, this particular ranger would be amazing. So by honing the skills that they've gained in the wild, rangers are more apt at setting really, really good traps. And they're not going to attack straight on. They're going to attack from kind of the side. They're excellent to have in a group. And you can play them one of two ways. You can play them, like I said, beast-bound, where you have an animal companion that walks with you and fights with you. It'll become very important to you. Or you can be a track wayfinder, where you are really amazingly good at tracking and hunting your foe. And so either way, you can play one or the other. Then we come to the rogue. The rogues are scoundrels. So if you've always wanted to play a scoundrel in life, if you always thought, boy, what would it be like to be a complete scoundrel, rogue is for you. They're a scoundrel both in their attitude and the way that they practice, broadly known as liars and thieves. They're the best among this class, move through the world. They're completely anonymous. Um, I keep thinking ninja or those thieves that you never knew that they were stealing from you, and somehow they did. So they're very good at being sneaky and being able to trick folks. And so they're not really in your face sort of fighting. They're the ones that wait in the shadow or in the dark and wait for you to pass by, and then they'll stick it to you. And so these are excellent. Rogues frequently establish guilds, other rogues, and they hone their skills and share um, um, information and everything else like that. It's something that's really excellent. So if you choose rogue, you can be a night walker. I kind of look at this as being like a ninja. You can hide in the shadows, and that's to hide to prevent yourself from being attacked or to attack somebody. Excuse me. Or the other side you can play is syndicate, which to me is kind of like a mobster. So the syndicate means that you have a web of contacts no matter where you go. Now, as a game master, that's going to put a lot of extra pressure on me because I'm going to have something to tell you as the syndicate if that's the way you go, because you're going to have a contact everywhere that you go. That sounds like a lot of fun. The Seraph is what we often know as kind of a paladin sort of player. They're divine fighters and healers imbued with a sacred purpose. So they're basically holy fighters that basically are on a quest by God or their God or whatever you decide to play, that basically says defend the weak, care for the poor, never turn your back on those that are in need. And each seraph has a particular purpose. And so if you choose this, part of the session 0 will be to come up with that purpose. Their ethos traditionally aligns with the domain of whatever divine nature that they have. Sometimes it's exacting vengeance. Sometimes it's defending the weak. Sometimes it's protecting the land, which is kind of an important one when you're going through all these lands of Amaroth. Sometimes you're a religious zealot. In other words, your faith is the most important thing, and you kind of lose sight of everything else. And so some seraphs ally themselves in larger like armies. We see that kind of think of like Knights Templar. It's better to be a ally of a seraph than an enemy of a seraph. Because once they start attacking, they are very focused on the destruction of whatever's in front of them. And you can do a couple different things. Now, the Seraphs have a really interesting subclass. The Divine Wielder, you get a legendary weapon. And this weapon, it'll be pretty spectacular, and you'll be very good at using it. Or you can choose to be a winged sentinel, which means that you're going to look like a big giant angel. Excuse me again. And if you want to take flight and attack from above, you can certainly do that. Now, there are pluses and minuses to flying, and I'll explain those as we kind of start the game. But those are your two choices. You can be a sorcerer. So this is one of the characters you can play. It's sadly they called it a ribbit, which was a little bit on the nose. But what's interesting about the ribbits in this particular frame, they're 6.5 to 8 feet tall. So don't let this cute little guy fool you. He's a big dude, and we'll talk about that in the next section. But as a sorcerer, not all innate magic users choose to hone their craft. Some those that do, some of them become very powerful sorcerers. And the gifts, these are naturally gifted magic people. So it comes down through their families, and sometimes Their family is reluctant because in Amaroth, magic doesn't always mean good. And so you'll learn that in some places, you don't want to openly say, "Oh yeah, I'm a magic person." That may not work in your favor. Um, but the sorcerer's ability can range from anything from elemental, you can shoot fire or electricity, or it can be even illusionary. So, making people see things, making people kind of hallucinate. The act of becoming a formidable sorcerer is not about practicing, but rather learning how to cultivate what you already have on the inside. Um, there's two ways you can play a sorcerer. You can play an elemental origin, which means that pick one of the elements. If you want to be a fire sorcerer, then fire is your friend. So that means anything, a campfire, a gas lantern, fire from a torch. All of those become very powerful to you. You could be a water sorcerer. Lots of water around Amaranth. You could be lightning. It means you're basically you deal stay with storms, and so all of these things are possible. Or you can be primal, which basically extends what you can do beyond what the elemental person do. So either one, they're both good. They're both powerful, and you can choose. We have the warrior. I kind of look at the warrior as kind of the berserker, uh, barbarian of the bunch. So becoming a warrior requires years, often a lifetime of training to weapons and violence. And so if you ever wanted to, you just got to sometimes open up a can of whoop butt on something. If you wanted to play that and see what that's like, maybe you're a mild mannered person in real life, but boy, you really want to know what it feels like just to let loose. Well, this would be the character for you. They are usually employed in large groups, bands of mercenaries, royal guards, but their real focus is they usually have a favorite weapon, and they're very good at using it. And so you can be Call of the Brave. You can use your enemies' might against them. I love this. This is so kung fu. Basically, your enemy's strength will fuel your own power. So, or you can be a warrior that basically smites and strikes down your enemies with incredible amounts of power. All of these is good. And then finally, we have the wizard. The ones that were crunchy with ketchup. So wizards are schooled. They spend a lifetime learning magic. Some wizards dedicate their lives to a particular school. Other ones are they want to go out there and destroy evil. The Magi, when they came all together, they created those pyres in Amaroth that keep the shadow at bay. That's a very particular magic. They all kind of work toward a common goal of collecting magical knowledge, but there's conflict, right? Anytime it's kind of like my magic is better than your magic, and your magic is not as good as mine, or inferior. And so a lot of times you get too many magic people together, especially wizards, and you'll have a butting of the heads sort of thing. So a little bit of wizard goes a long way. You can choose to do School of Knowledge, which makes you very good at understanding the world around you. So you have a lot of wisdom and a lot of intelligence. Or you can play a School of War, which basically is a wizard that just loves to throw fireballs and do a lot of damage. Either one is perfectly good. And so that concludes this part 2 of the classes, and I hope that you hope I've kind of talked about it a little bit and it makes sense to you. But watch the video a few times. It'll help you when we start talking about these classes if you kind of know what we're doing. The next video is going to be about ancestry, and this is where we're going to talk about who you are and where you've come from. So anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll talk to you again soon.